But, I mean, obviously now this gives the Red Sox one of the best rotations in baseball. What was already a very good rotation now just became astronomically impressive.
It's interesting to me to see, first off, the 5th year. Not something that the Red Sox have historically done. Epstein has come out in the past and said he doesn't really believe signing free agent pitchers is really prudent because the cost is so high and there's so many, it's fraught with so many risks, especially for a guy who's had some shoulder problems and some elbow problems and is on the wrong side of 30. But I kind of feel like this was a backup plan a little bit. He talked a lot about prior to this having, if they got Jason Bay, they had a plan. If they didn't get Jason Bay, they had a plan. He kind of has reshaped the direction of the team now for 2010 and beyond a little bit. If you're not going to score as many runs, which right now they're not going to, Mike Cameron's going to help you a little more offensively than people might think. He might not match what Jason Bay can give you, but he does have some power. He's very strong to left field. I had, 30, 33, 34 doubles last year. But his defense and a stronger rotation to go with, Scudero at shortstop, however they decide to shuffle the infield, whether it be putting Euclid at third for a first baseman, finding a new third baseman. If you allow less runs, you don't have to score as many runs, and that's something that they've stressed throughout their tenure here. Run differential is one of the things that they really look at. And over Epstein's 7 years, the Red Sox have scored somewhere on the order of 900 more runs than they've allowed. And that's how you win ball games. You can win 2-1 as easily as you can win 10-8. It's a little bit cliched, but that's how they're coming into this. They didn't get Bay. They didn't get Bay to stay. They made a push to get him. They didn't. So they went a different direction. They're going to build around pitching and defense now. Whether it works, hard to say. I think there's still more work to be done, but I think they know there's still more work to be done too. And
you mentioned that it's also a backup plan. Is it also insurance too if Beckett doesn't stick around, that you'll still have Lackey around for a few more years?
I'll be honest. I'm surprised that there's so much talk about them trying to sign Beckett because to me, I always felt like Beckett was going to want a bigger deal than he would get here. He signed 3 for $30 early on in his tenure here, which we pretty much can all agree was a little less than he probably could have gotten. Now he's a little bit further on in his career. He still has that historic success. He's still been very strong in the postseason when he's been healthy, but he's been inconsistent. John Lackey has been far more consistent than Beckett has been. Their numbers are similar, but he's on a much more of an even keel. He hasn't had an ERA over 4, I think. His career ERA, I think, is somewhere in the order of 3.8, but he's every year, 10, 15 game winner. Solid numbers across the board. He's pitched in big games. He's won big games. He's shaken the stigma that he always had at Fenway, whereas Beckett has been very much touch and go. For the 18 starts that he was rolling through during the summer, he was as good as any pitcher in baseball, but when it went bad, it went really bad. And the Red Sox, even back when Beckett was in 2007, kind of at the height of his powers, there were a lot of murmurs about, well, this probably is going to be his last contract here. He's probably going to want to cash in on the open market. And I don't fault the man that. But what Lackey gives you is an ability to, use some of the chips that you have now, and he gives you flexibility for the future so that if you lose Beckett, you still have John Lester and John Lackey that you can build around.
And not even just the future alone, but what it can bring for you this year. Not only does it give you a strong 1, 2, 3, it also gives you a little flexibility at the end of the rotation. Now, if you have Daisuke being a number 4, and then if you have Wakefield, taking over that 5th role, then you can take a Clay Buchholz, one of these younger guys, and now dangle them out there in some of these deals that we're hearing about. And, of course, the big deal that everybody's talking about looks like it might not be happening.
Well, it's still very early on. The thing that I find funny, and we're very early in all of this, what they've done, I don't really feel like they need to make a move offensively now, but they clearly still will need to at some point in the future. They could go into the year with Clay Buchholz in the rotation and kind of go in with the lineup that they have now, adding a third baseman, whether it be Adrian Beltre, who I think is going to want too much money, or another guy, or, the Lowell trade hasn't gone through yet. Who knows what's going to happen with that? You can look at this team now and say, all right, there's a team that I could see competing. They've got a 1, 2, 3 as strong as any other team in the American League. You can debate with the Yankees, and depending on what Philly does when they settle the Halladay trade. But let's say that they go back into next season. They scored 830 runs last year. They're looking like a team that at worst is going to score 800 runs. They allowed somewhere on the order of 730. You got to think that's going to go down if they get anything, if they get a healthy Lackey for the majority of the season, and Lester continues where he is, and if they keep Buckles has looked good. Matsuzaka is apparently in tremendous shape relative to what we've seen in the past. He's kind of taking last year as a kick in the pants. You can see them coming together as a team and being a playoff contender. And then if you get in the playoffs, all of a sudden, a short series, you've got a 1-2-3 that is as envious as anybody.